just be aware about that delay. If you're trying to type in a question via Facebook, I may not see it until after the moment has passed. But for everyone, thank you so much for being here. And let's get started. Okay, so today we're just going to go over the real basics about what recycling is, why it can recycle, what, how, other frequently asked questions. And I'm going to do a poll here for those of us joining us via Zoom. And you should be getting that now. I don't think you see that on the Facebook live stream, but basically this poll is asking 5 questions. The first is my Starbucks cup recyclable? True or false? Like, true or false, recycling in North Carolina is based on the recycling number. 3, I can recycle my pizza box if it has no grease or oil on it. True or false? 4, I can recycle the batteries into my standard recycling cart. True or false? And the final question is, you can recycle anything as long as it has the chasing arrows recycling symbol on it. True or false? Okay, and I'm gonna save those answers for y'all. I'm gonna save those for later. It's just something to think about, okay? So give me one moment. But first, let's just really quickly, what's recycling? I think most of us know this, but it is just turning materials that would otherwise be wasted into new materials and objects. I say new materials and objects because often what is getting recycled is processed into either fibers or components or pellets that are added into a virgin material, which is a term that's used for like a brand new resource kind of pulled from the earth directly, and it's mixed together to create something. And we're going to quickly go over the top 3 reasons on why we recycle, sprinkled in with some fun facts. The first reason why we recycle, and there's a lot, but the first one is to reduce the amount of materials that are being sent to the landfill. Last year, NC State recycled nearly 3 million pounds of cans and bottles and paper and cardboard and other goods. 3 million pounds we didn't send to the landfill because we recycle here. And that's super important because reducing amount of the waste that we send to the landfill is critical for us to have a healthy planet and healthy communities. Landfills have detrimental effects to both the atmosphere, like the air quality that we breathe, especially for those people who live around landfills. It also has water impacts. Leakage from landfills is a very real thing. It obviously requires land. Here in Wake County, the South Wake County landfill is the landfill that we use from NC State University, and it is expected to run out of space by the year 2040. It might be sooner. That number was pre-COVID, and during this past year, there has been a remarkable increase in the amount of landfill that has been going there. Landfills are also really bad for wildlife. They interrupt like natural migration patterns. They also create a food source that is terrible for their diets, and they can kill a lot of animals. Landfill fires are a very real thing. They happen every year by dozens of them. Things are easily combusted, especially when people send things to the landfill that shouldn't be going there. And that obviously creates even more air quality problems. And of course, all of that is part of climate change and the problems that we're facing, especially when we look at the greenhouse gas emissions, methane, which is like methane and carbon dioxide. We are very fortunate here in Wake County that we do capture a lot of those gases, but we don't capture all. But the overall management of the Wake County landfill, I would say, is near the top in the nation, but you can learn more. They are doing a Talking Trash, Learn About Your Landfill this Earth Day. We have that information on our website on upcoming events, so you could check that out. And again, landfills do hurt people. You know, poor air quality, poor water quality, even the land that is often used, it's often at the risk, and it harms people within those communities, right? So we want to reduce the amount of waste that we're sending to landfills, and recycling is just one strategy and one way that we can do that. Recycling is also part of our zero waste strategy here at NC State University. It's not the only part, but it is one. In 2019, we did a waste audit study here, and that's where we took dumpsters from across campus, representing all the different types of buildings we have on campus, from residence halls to research labs, even mixed use like our libraries, Carmichael, athletic buildings, etc. So we took dumpsters, we dumped them, and sorted all of the waste. And I say we, it was actually in collaboration with Wake County. And what we found is this is actually, as an aggregate, what we were sending to the landfill. As you can see, majority of the waste that we were sending was actually compostable. And this we knew, and this is why a huge focus for our office here at NC State University is to expand composting infrastructure so that people can have the ability to compost while they're on our campus. But the infrastructure that is already in place at NC State is for recycling. You can't go anywhere without finding a recycling bin. Inside a building, outside a building, we've got recycling bins. It is a university standard that all recycling bins must be paired next to a landfill bin so that we don't throw away, that's in quotation marks, recyclable goods, right? And this is really consistent with what we found in previous waste audits, and that's that nearly 18% of our waste is actually recyclable, and not just like hard to recycle stuff where people don't know. It's like the very common cans and bottles, paper, cardboard. Cans, bottles, paper, cardboard. We're still finding in our landfill, right? Whew. And so recycling and recycling education is still key, and it's a part of how we reduce the amount of items that are being sent to our landfill. And that all plays into the part of another reason why we recycle is to conserve natural resources, trees, waters, minerals. That nearly 20,000 pounds last year, that's part of what we recycled in paper. And just by doing that, it's as if we had saved 168 trees, over 3,000 gallons of water, nearly 70,000 gallons of water, almost 4,000 gallons of oil, because that's what it would have taken had we used virgin wood to create the paper that we ended up recycling, right? So saving natural resources is also why it's vital for us to recycle. But something that a lot of people don't actually think about is that recycling creates jobs and it boosts our local and global economies. Here in North Carolina, there are a lot of people involved in recycling, and it's not just the collection drivers. Because if you think about like landfill and the people who are involved in like picking up your trash from curbside, they pick it up and they take it to the landfill. And yes, there's people that work at the landfill to manage it, but that's it. That's all that happens. Whereas with recycling, you have the people who are collecting it, but they take it to a recycling facility where it's processed, and that where it's processed and sorted is then shipped to other facilities based on the material stream. For example, glass gets sorted at 2 recycling facilities here in Raleigh, and then all of the glass is then sent to recycling facilities. I believe there's one in Wendell. And there, that company that is focusing only on glass separates it by color, breaks it up, and it creates those glass products or glass particles, I want to say, those glass miniature parts that have all been broken and separated by color, et cetera. And then they sell that to the people who make products out of the glass. And all of those people, you know, they're making the products on and on and on and on, right? So recycling and the recycling infrastructure in our state is huge. We're actually within our region, Virginia, North and South Carolina, we have a really strong recycling manufacturers, businesses, export, import, like it happens here within our state. And it contributes over $4 billion to our economy just through recycling. Those numbers get bigger when we begin looking at national numbers as well as global numbers. So recycling is a key part of boosting our local economies. And it would be even more if we could truly become a member of a circular economy, right? Because here's a fun fact about recycling. Recycling is when we take those items, we break it down to create a new material or product, right? But many products are not recyclable indefinitely. So some are. Glass is, it's a beautiful product. Aluminum is, it's a beautiful product, but plastics aren't. Every time you break it down and you shred it and you take it apart, it actually, the quality of it lessens. It gets more brittle, it's not very stable. And so the quality of the product that can be manufactured out of it, it's less and less, right? Until eventually you can no longer recycle it. So this is why like things like plastic straws, plastic utensils, plastic forks, even cups, like think a red Solo cup, cannot be recycled. It's made out of a really crap plastic already. It's done for. They don't want it. Same thing if you see like black plastics. Even here at NC State, sometimes you'll find like a black base salad bowl. I've seen them come out occasionally from different food vendors on campus, like it's a black holder or a black plastic plate. Those are actually recycled from electronics and it's done. They don't want them anymore, recyclers don't. It's already been broken down once and the resulting product, it got used, but now it's done for and it needs to go to a landfill. So when we begin thinking about recycling, what we really need to do is focus on the products that can be in this eternal loop and create a circular economy for us. So that's at the top. You see design better products. It's design better products, but based on materials that we can work with. And then looking through the entire system from the manufacturing to promotion, also looking at education. It's just continually in this loop. And this is really important, but it's also really important to note that here in the US, we don't do a great job at recycling. One reason for this is that infrastructure isn't standard. Like here at NC State, standard, it's everywhere. I can't say the same throughout city of Raleigh, right, where we're at, or even throughout the state, or even among other states. It's not something that's standard. It's also, yeah, how do I want to say this? The education and isn't also standard. People aren't aware of why this is good. Sometimes it gets politicized between like, ooh, you're a tree hugger, right? And so it becomes something that people don't want to support and get behind. It is, yeah. But here in the US, here's some fun facts. And this is based off the last EPA reports from 2018. It takes a while to gather all the data. But we only recycle 40% of glass. That's glass beer, glass wine bottles, glass soft drink bottles, only 40%. If you think about aluminum, it's a little better. We recycle 50% of aluminum. If we think about water bottles, like that plastic PET, it's 30%, it's even less. And then if we think about like jugs, that really like high, thick plastics, HDPE kind of plastics, it's a 30%. We're not great recyclers here, but I'm not going to say, oh, it's about the individual. It's really about a system that isn't supported, right, through infrastructure, not just for households and within towns and communities and even school systems, but it's an infrastructure that isn't supported for the recycling manufacturers. So just because like we can recycle glass here in the city of Raleigh, other communities in North Carolina cannot. They can no longer recycle glass, okay? So the product, it doesn't matter whether or not it's actually recyclable. It's based on what your community recycler accepts. So getting to a circular economy and getting people to recycle more and building the economy infrastructure is key for us. So what exactly can we recycle though, right? I mentioned a lot already, and that looks kind of blurry. I wish that was clearer on your screen. But we can recycle here in the city of Raleigh, so that includes NC State University. We all use the same recycling facilities, and we have similar contracts. That's key, okay? But we can recycle plastic bottles, tubs, jugs, and jars. I think you've got the plastic bottles, but what's a tub? A tub is like a tub of butter, okay? Or a tub of like sour cream. It's made of plastic and it's just called a tub. Jugs are like a jug of milk, right? We can recycle that. And then of course, plastic jars, a jar of mayonnaise, for example. We also can recycle all metal, so all cans. And I say all metal, but really what I mean is like household metals that you would find in your kitchen refrigerators or pantry, right? Those types of metals, not construction metals. Can't throw that into your standard recycling bin. We can recycle all glass here. We're very fortunate. A few years ago, because of some global market changes, glass didn't have a really good market. They weren't able to resell it very well. There wasn't so many recyclers stopped accepting it, especially because glass is really hard on trucks and on machinery. So here's a fun fact. Even though glass is a beautiful product, it's so wonderful. If you had a choice between buying a beverage in a glass or a beverage in an aluminum can, I would tell you to use the aluminum. Glass doesn't have the same impact and as in terms of like market and what people can get value. And it's also super hard on recyclers. So we prefer aluminum. Fun fact, but you're very fortunate you can still throw in that glass, no problem. And we also recycle, of course, paper. So paper, cardboards, but please know anything smaller than like a business card, that's kind of like a rule of thumb. There's no need to throw it in there. It's not going to make it. The way that recycling works is that it's all going into like your car, it ends up in a dumpster or whatever. It could then be emptied into a giant truck, and that giant truck basically dumps it onto a floor, and it looks like a mountain of recyclables. And then they push it using like one of those big old, I don't know what they're called, those big machines, backhoe, I don't know. And they push it onto these conveyor belts. And those conveyor belts have a set of gears, and there's gaps in all of this. Small pieces of paper will not make it. So even though this may seem counterintuitive, it's better to like compost that small piece of paper if you have access to that, or you're just going to toss it because it's going to end up getting tossed anyway, or it's going to get stuck to something like glass or metal, and it'll kind of contaminate that material stream. So that's a fun fact about paper. Another fun one, if you notice on our picture, we have cartons, like a carton, think a juice carton, or if you buy almond milk, it'll come in a carton. Know that those cartons are recyclable here at NC State and within the city of Raleigh, but they're not recyclable like in places right next door, like the town of Cary. You're not supposed to put those into the bins. And yet we use the same recycling companies. They go to the same place. And the reason is contracts. So cartons got removed from the contract with town of Cary about 1.5 years ago, I believe. So it's not just about like whether or not that material can be recycled. That doesn't matter. It's about whether or not the recycler accepts it and whether or not it's in the contract, okay? And then of course, whether or not it has value for the recycler, whether they can make money off of it. If that item doesn't meet those three criteria, it's not recyclable. Doesn't matter whether it actually is, it's not recyclable. So those are some things to think about. So how can you recycle right knowing all of this? Well, honestly, it depends on all where you live. Products are manufactured globally, right? So if you go into a grocery store or a Walmart or a big box store and you're looking for cups for a party, single-use disposable cups, all of those cups have different numbers and they're manufactured in different places around the world. But recycling is based on where you live. Even if it changes from, I live in Cary, but I work in Raleigh. So the rules can change just within a mile of my house, right? So it's very important that you contact your town, or if you don't have like curbside recycling, your county, like if you have to drop it off at a county site, know what they accept. Also, if you just travel to campus, know what we accept. So if you are disposing of items at NC State University on campus, know what we accept, because it could be different. That's why it's really important to read the labels, both on the bins as well as the dumpsters. And I say the dumpsters because some buildings, like our residence halls, the students, they will take the items themselves out and recycle it by tossing it into a dumpster. So for them, they need to read the labels on the dumpsters. And then for here on campus, recycling.ncsu.edu, that's where our recycling guide lives. But keep it loose, all right? This is key to recycling. Anywhere in the entire world, you've got to keep your recycling loose. Do not bag your recyclables. What that means is if you want to collect it in your house or in your room in a plastic bag, great. But once you take it out to empty it into a dumpster or a cart, you need to shake it out of the bag and then toss and throw that bag away. Those bags cannot be recycled like that. What they do is they jam that machinery. They're terrible. And the people working at the recycling center don't have the time to open up your bags, okay? So keep it loose. Second, please rinse and recycle. Rinse first, then recycle. A lot of this has to deal with not that it makes it non-recyclable, but it's really bad, not only for attracting pests and rodents in your house, in the dumpsters outside, but it causes a really bad health hazard for the people who work there. When I talked about mountains of recyclables, I'm talking mountains. And if it has like rotten food and rotten liquids all in it, it attracts a lot of pests and rodents. It's a nightmare trying to keep these recycling facilities clean. And that's because they're getting actual dirty products, right? So rinse and then recycle them. You don't have to put it through a dishwasher. It doesn't have to be like perfectly scrubbed out. A good rinse, or even what I do is I'll just like put water in it and let it sit on my counter for like a day and shake it really good. And then whatever comes out, that's great. And then I'll recycle it, okay? And then a third kind of fun tip that a lot of people don't know is that here we keep the lids on. This is a change. It changed, I want to say, gosh, maybe 15 years ago. It used to be they told everyone, oh, take it off. Don't do that. Keep them on. Keep it on. That lid will get recycled. If you unscrew it and you toss it in separately, it won't. It's too small, right? It's smaller than a business card, so it won't get recycled. So keep it on. And so this is where we're going to go into these top 4 recycling mistakes that I often see, and that a lot of it was on those initial poll questions that I gave you all. And in fact, well, I'll review these first. So the top 4 recycling mistakes is thinking that the chasing arrows recycling symbol means something for you, means that you can recycle it. It doesn't. That symbol means nothing. It means absolutely nothing for you. It does not mean it can be recycled, because recycling is based on where you live, right? And what they take and what contracts you are. So you cannot use that little symbol as an indicator that you can put that in a recycling bin. Number 2, all plastics, metals, and glass are equal and can all be recycled. Totally false. Just because it's plastic, just because it's glass, just because it's made out of metal, that doesn't mean you can recycle it. It's based on where you live. It's based on what the recycler accepts. And because there's so many variations within each of those categories, you can't go by whether plastic, metal, glass, okay? You have to really dig down into what type of plastic. And for us, it's not based on a number. We don't use numbers. If you noticed prior about what was recyclable, I didn't mention any type of number because that's not how the state of North Carolina recycles. It's based on shape. So it's based on, is it a bottle, tub, jug, right? Or jar. It's based on shape, not on numbers. The third recycling mistake that we often see, which I talked about, is that plastic bags can be recycled in your bin. Nope, no bags. If you're someone who gets retail bags that are clean and dry, you went shopping at Target or something and you got it in a plastic bag, you can recycle that bag by taking it back to a store. It doesn't have to be Target. You could use a grocery store. If you're on campus, you could use at Tally. We have a collection point at the front desk in Tally, but that's the only place. It has to be totally separate and you cannot recycle it inside of your standard bin, okay? Jams machinery. And then the final one is thinking that plastic cups are recycling, and they're not. Any type of plastic cup, whether it's a hot drink from Starbucks, like a coffee, or you got a cold iced tea from Bojangles, any type of cup, it's trash. You got to put it in the landfill. And that's why we push so hard to talk about bring your own. Okay, so let me share the results. Good job, everybody. And I like that for those who said, oh, I don't really know. Thank you for that, because that's true. And I hope that you learned something. So like you learned my Starbucks cup is recyclable. Nope, it's not. My Starbucks cup goes in the trash. Recycling in North Carolina is not based on the number. It is based on the shape and the type of material. Can you recycle your pizza box if it has no grease and oil on it? Actually, I didn't mention that. Yes, you can, because it would just then be a piece of cardboard, right? So if there is no grease and no oil on your pizza box, you can recycle it. Or if you're on campus, or you have a composting service, or you want to drop it off at Wake County, you can compost it. So that's fun. If there is grease, oil, cheese residue, you have to put it into the landfill though, okay? If you don't have access to compost, then you trash it. Fun tip, you could always like tear off like the lid or tear off sections that are clean to recycle, just making sure that they're bigger than like a business card. Good job knowing that you don't put batteries or any type of electronic into your recycling bin. Those have to be recycled separately, and you can do that either on campus in the yellow recycling carts. They are located everywhere, or you can do that by going to the Wake County convenience site. And then final question, you can recycle anything with that chasing arrow circular recycling symbol on it. No, that's false. It doesn't matter whether it has that symbol, because that symbol means nothing. Okay, let me close that poll. And all of this plays into why we have a zero waste strategy, right? Because there's a lot of restrictions on recycling, and there's so many products that are made of plastics that we can't recycle. They're just not recyclable here, which is why we encourage people to bring your own cup. I think that's going to show it backwards, but bring your own cup whenever you can, okay? So there is a zero waste hierarchy, and it does describe like the way that we create policies or strategies for change. And if you notice, recycling isn't the top 1, 2, or even 3. It's closer to the bottom. Recycling is part of the strategy, but it's not the only thing that's important. The first thing we have to do is to rethink what we're doing. And that's where we rethink, honestly, we think about our access and our privilege towards recycling. It's easy for me to tell people, you need to recycle, recycle, recycle. I can't believe you're not recycling. Well, I live in a community that picks up recyclables from my doorstep. I work at a place where there is recycling everywhere. I have total access to recycling infrastructure. So that is where I live. That is my privilege when I think about how I can be more sustainable. Not everyone has that access, right? We also have to think about our consumption habits, like how much stuff that we buy are we buying that actually contain recyclable materials, that contain things that have a longer life cycle. Rethink about how things are made, the policies and the systems that are part of this, right? And what are the opportunities we as individuals have to promote and support industry and small businesses that inspire a circular economy. Okay, so that's part of just like that rethinking piece that is key. We also have to begin to refuse single-use plastics. And by single-use plastics, I do mean those plastic bags, those bottles, cups, utensils, everything in that picture there. It's all single-use, that's all trash. We pulled that actually from a recycling bin, and none of it's recyclable. And yes, that bin said cans and bottles only. And this is what we got. And the reason being is that they all have that chasing arrow symbol on it. And that is just a lie that has been perpetuated through our society. It's all trash. So begin to refuse like these items if you're able, right? But if you do get them, no judgment, you just have to put them in the landfill. Begin to refuse anything, all these unnecessary, like free tchotchke, like plastics. You don't need them. And also begin to refuse the status quo. Refuse thinking that just because this is how it's always done, just because businesses have always used this plastic disposable cup, that means they always will continue to do so. That's not true. Systems can change, and we can play a big role in making them change. We also, again, we reduce our overall consumption, right? We thought about it, and now we're gonna do it. We reduce the amount of fast products. And I'm not just talking fast food. I'm thinking like fast textiles, right? Any fast shipping, you know, those companies where you order something and it gets here next day. You have to begin thinking about ways that you can reduce that footprint required for the production, the transportation, even the purchasing. There are so many wonderful people here in your local area that you can get something from, right? And not just businesses, but you can also borrow from a neighbor, a friend, a community. There's really big borrow, swap, buy nothing groups that are huge within the Raleigh and surrounding area communities. And then if you need something, think about, and you can't find it where you can't borrow it, think about thrift stores. All of this plays a part into the recycling industry, all right? So figure out how to reuse. And then request. This is like one of my favorite R's. And that's where, make it known. Request. Have you talked to your family and friends about recycling? Have you told them like, oh my gosh, guess what I just learned? Those arrows don't mean you can recycle it. Talk to your family about it. Request that they begin to recycle if they're not already. It's really important. Request that organizations that you're involved in, whether if it's not here on NC State, maybe you belong to a clogging group or an art club, but they don't have recycling infrastructure, perhaps request that they start. And maybe it could be something like, well, we'll collect it and we'll take turns taking it to our houses. I know a lot of people that do that. And if enough people begin requesting it, it begins to create this change, right? So you just have to let your intentions be known. And so, final thoughts. it's really key that you know what to throw. Check the recycling rules where you live. That is key to making sure that we recycle right. If you don't know, you're out on the road and you're just like, I don't know what to do. Throw it into the trash bin. You may be thinking, what? It makes too much of a negative impact to send something wrong to the recycling facility. Put it in the trash. When in doubt, throw it out. But remember to look it up next time. What should I have done? Okay, so that you'll know for the future. But first, always remember recycling is important, but first, rethink, refuse, reduce, reuse, right? Those have to happen before you even begin talking about recycling. And it's true, it's part of a zero waste strategy. Our office name is Waste Reduction and Recycling. We believe in recycling. It is so important for our local economy. And it's so important for saving our natural resources. It saves so much money, okay? But there are many paths to success. When I began earlier, when I mentioned like privilege and accessibility, the same thing happens within the sustainability world. There's so many different ways where we can make the world a better place. And so if you're unable and you don't have access to recycling infrastructure, know that there are other ways that you can have a role in making the world a better place. It takes all of us. It takes, no matter our role on campus, no matter our role in a community, whether we're a parent, a kid, whether we work in an academics or whether we work outside, whether, it doesn't matter. Artists, streamers, poets, we need everybody to make the world a better place. And so if you have questions, feel free to unmute or put it in the chat. I see one already. Thanks, Bob. Yes, definitely. This is going to be on our Facebook page. It'll stay there recorded, and you can get that there. So it's going to stay there. I'll also be putting it on our YouTube page. And for both channels, it's at NC State Recycles. So it's already going to be on our Facebook. Give me a week before I upload it to our YouTube channel. So at NC State Recycles. And do any of y'all have any other questions? As you think of them, here's some of our upcoming events. Note that tomorrow we're actually doing a Fork It Over collecting plastic utensils event. That's going to be behind Tally. You can stay in your cars if you're driving through, or if you're already on campus and you want to walk up, you can do that. So outside Tally in the back by the elevator on the Dunn Avenue Loop. And what that means is, we know a lot of us have been supporting local businesses and restaurants and getting takeout. And even though we may #opt out of getting plastic forks because we're eating at home, we still may get them. So all of those plastic utensils cannot be recycled. They go in the trash, but we want to make sure they have a little bit of good life left in them. So we're donating them to a nonprofit called Oak City Cares that provides meals for people who are currently unhoused. So that's tomorrow. More info, you can visit calendar.ncsu.edu or recycling.ncsu.edu and just check out our events there. Okay. Well, that's all I got, everybody. So thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. It's been great being here with you. Thank you so much, and go Pat.